No moral ambiguity, all the ingenuity. Thoroughly directed at war in your community. No matter what they do to me, it won't change the fact. Freedom's a human right, it's time to take them back. So how do we stop this obnoxious nonsense? A meeting, a forum, a concert, a conference. I understand the need to talk and process, but we need action, not just thoughts and concepts.
Somebody help me.
That's word.
This is not healthy.
Oh man.
I am not wealthy.
What I do, have the power to break the chains.
Hello everyone, I'm Ibrahim Mubarak, the host and executive director and founder of Right to Survive. And in our mission statement, Right to Survive is a grassroots organization that's made up of houseless people, formerly houseless people, their allies and their supporters, where we go into the houseless community to educate them on their human, constitutional, and civil rights and teach them their rights and promote them to speak up for themselves. In this video, you're going to see the evolution and the origin of Right to Survive and all their direct actions and all their work. Thank you.
Right to Survive came together officially in October of 2009, and the majority of the group was people without housing, as well as formerly houseless folks who are working together. For example, we organized whistle brigades that would go out and give whistles to women in the camps and talk to people about incidents of sexual assault that had happened, and try to help people feel safe, and organizing rapid response networks to sweeps under the bridges.
After living in the streets for a couple of years on getting used to the hustle and bustle of social service hopping and being treated like shit or being treated unhumane, I start reaching out to my former colleagues who helped me with Dignity Village, tell them I'm gonna try to start something up. I looked in my pockets, I had $10, and the only transportation I had was a bike. And I made $10 worth of flyers, forming a new group, Meet Me Here at Sort of Road. And I said, people are just trying to survive out there. And somebody said, well, everybody have a right to survive. So that name took place. One of our first big events, we called it Pitch a Tent, when Leo Rose came to me and said, Ibrahim, why is it legal for people that live in houses to pitch tent overnight and enjoy a parade as a leisure and pleasure, but it's not good for homeless people to pitch a tent up overnight as a way of life and survival. So I said, let's do a direct action, a protest. So we put tents along the parade route, put houseless people in there. We had activists and guest speaker and food and every other different organization that was activists come and speak and join us to educate the houseless community. After that, the houseless community said, well, that was the best sleep what we had, what we gonna do now, where can we go now? We looked at each other and said, wow, we don't know.
Our main activist base was people who were just trying to survive, and so they had to spend a lot of their day figuring out where they were going to sleep for the night, what they were going to eat, and we felt that if we could find a piece of land where people would be able to sleep safely and get some rest, that our capacity as an organization was going to be a lot more to actually affect the systemic change that we were looking for as an organization.
I ended up owning the corner of 4th and Burnside with a partner. And then I started fighting the city for the next 15 years as they tried to run me out of there. Everything they could bring at me, I passed it all. But then they started a task force, Randy Leonard's, his hit squad task force that they formed to go ahead and put people out of business that they wanted out of business. Because the Pearl District developers pretty much control the politics of Portland. So finally they cut off my electricity, saying it was a dangerous building. It never had been for 20 years prior to that, but it was now. And there was a pump on the roof that caused water to accumulate when they didn't have electricity, so the building collapsed. And they came in and told me to either demolish my building or they would do it for me and send me a bill. And they would have, and so I did. Cost me a couple $100,000, and But I had a little dream. I was going to put food carts there when I was done. Good spot, good location. So I put 3 there as a test thing, and immediately they came down and told me I could not have food carts there. So I was being interviewed by somebody, one of the TV stations, and I said, you know what? I think what Portland deserves is a homeless camp on the corner of 4th and Burnside.
And that's when people in Right to Survive and allies started to get together and figure out who is this guy and how do we get a hold of him.
So we got to the top of the mountain in a rainbow gathering, then I get this call from Dale Holloway and Leo Rose saying, it's this grunted landlord that said he wanted to give the land to the people who started Dignity Village. And so, voila, I came down from my vacation early to meet with Michael Wright.
And he said, Michael, were you serious about that? I said, yeah, I think I was.
We are at a historic moment here. We have a whole historic document going, signing between Lisa and Ibrahim. So how long have you been working for this to get this going here?
I've been working at the Dignity Village about 10 years. I wanted another spot to go along with Dignity Village, and then after this we're going to get another. Hopefully we have the domino effect and the chain reaction that we need villages everywhere.
July of 2011 is when we were told we could, when the meeting was set up with Michael Wright and Dan Cosette, the landowners, and by October 10th, we were set up. And in that meantime, actually, it felt really slow for the landowners. They wanted BAM, you know, like, okay, here you are, but they also wanted us to have a fence. They wanted us to have insurance. And those were the main obstacles for setting up.
We have the woods that it's been sitting here for a couple of months now. We've been saving this for this particular day coming up.
I was aware that City Repair had set up these fences made out of doors before I'd seen one, and I had some idea, and I talked to Mark Lakeman from City Repair, and I said, look, we have zero money. We need a perimeter fence to protect this piece of land we're going to set up on. And he said, yeah, you can use doors and you can form them in an accordion kind of shape.
We wanted people to just sit down and rest. That's what they want. I said, why not let them lay down and sleep? Because that's the biggest time they getting arrested and criminalized for having a place to sleep. So we're trying to find a name to come up, and it was a whole lot of different names. And so we wanted something to go with Right to Survive. And then somebody said, well, everybody have a right to, you know, people have a right to dream. That means they sleeping if they dreaming.
And so it was on like October 8th that we caught wind that there was going to be this Occupy thing happening, and we all went down to the riverfront and we're like, huh, this is interesting, you know, like Occupy's going on. And some people thought that's going to make sort of a good cover for us, you know, and it did indeed. So on October 10th, the day we had selected was, as a group, as Right to Survive, was World Homeless Action Day, and there were going to be events going on all over the world, and we chose to do setting up Right to Dream 2 that day, and we did.
We've been working for 2.5 months now, and it is a, if you will, loose-knit coalition of people that are concerned about those that are living without shelter.
A complaint about potential camping.
There's a complaint that what?
This is a campsite.
And so what did they say?
They told us, we told them to go bring out their complaints and bring them to us on paper, because we do things as a group and we want to take it to our group. And they said, well, we just want to be, helpful and help y'all. And I said, okay, leave us alone. Leave us alone. That's all you have for us. And then they said if we don't do nothing about it, they're going to go to the landowners, which the landowners stand and listen to everything. And so we was talking why we can't be here, and they were saying, well, people can't sleep in tents. So I said, oh, really? When you go tell those people at Occupy Portland to get their tents down, then you come to us. But don't come to us until you clear that out up there. You can't clear that out there with the mayor's permission. Don't come to us. And when you do, they say, well, we don't come back and write up the rules and regulations all that you all don't know, This is the code, and they've given us 29.50.050. So if anybody want to look that up, look it up for us.
They're clearly right away trying to respond to the fact that unhoused people are taking care of their need to sleep. You know, and that's just basic. Nobody's hurting anybody. It's been so calm and peaceful here and lovely. So people are taking care of a really basic need. They're supporting each other. It's a beautiful thing. So instantly, of course, the developer from across the street complained that there were a bunch of tents going up across the street. That first day, I don't think we felt very intimidated. We were ready for it. They were zoning people, and it was David Gold, the developer who owns a lot of land, and he was in for the hotel that used to be public housing. The Grove Hotel across the street used to be public housing, and he was going to turn it into a hotel. But I don't think we were intimidated. We were ready for it. This is what we came for, and we were going to stand our ground. And I mean, it's almost 5 years later, we've definitely stood our ground.
Then BDS came down, Portland Development Service, or BDC, Portland Development Commission, came down and asked what we was doing. They said, you can't have a camp here. And we said, this is not a camp. This is going to be a rest area. And so they went back and contacted us 2 days later and said, this is a recreational rest area. I said, we didn't say recreational. This is a rest area where people come sleep. There's nothing recreational about it. We don't have no swimming pool. We don't have no tennis court, no basketball court, or anything like that. So it started going back and forth. And as the houseless people start seeing and watching us, how we were defeating these officials with their own language, then they started saying, hey, this is something good. So that snowball domino effect came, where it was rolling and getting bigger and bigger, and people started coming. The challenging part was how we was going to set a place up where people can come in and sleep. And we want to do it without any biasness, no discrimination, and make it safe for anybody to come. We wanted to be that place where people who didn't want to utilize the shelter, who wouldn't want to go through that system, where they can come to us. So we cater to the LGBTQ community, where we started letting same-sex couples. We started letting couples in, didn't care if you was married or not.
They host people from a variety of backgrounds with a variety of issues, and it's amazing. And that's kind of what's really different about anything I've seen at the other places that have started up, like the fact that they are running 3 communal tents, a men's tent, a woman's tent, and a couple's tent, that they're running a very low barrier shelter for people who don't have any place else to go, and that everybody is judged on the behavior when they come in the gate, rather than, you know, we need your ID, we're gonna run a check, whatever, you know, everybody gets a chance. And then over the first few days of Right to Dream 2 being open, what we saw was people began to self-organize, and people began to stand really tall and proud. You know, they were like, this is our place, you know, we're taking care of this place. And so it was awesome. You know, we just saw how people's self-esteem rose as they were doing this community action together.
We had the homeless community for the first time start speaking up for themselves. They started going to City Hall. They started using what we was telling them when the police come, and then they'll run back and say, the police tried to arrest me, and I told them what y'all taught me, and they let me go. I'm so happy I learned from y'all. And they was getting empowered. And so we was growing, and we was educating and teaching the houseless community, don't roll over and play dead. Stand up and fight for your rights, you know. And we start protesting, we start fighting, we start standing our ground, we start going to City Hall, we start teaching people how to speak in front of the city commissioners and everything, don't be scared. We started teaching people their rights, and they were standing up to the police when they tried to sweep them and stuff. So the police started coming up with different tactics. We started going to police accountability meetings. We started going to the entities, TPI, Central City Concern, Northwest Pilot Project, all of these things, start going to their meetings, start going to neighborhood meetings and infiltrating and giving our spiel on houseless people are humans, why they don't have no rights once they leave their apartment. And it just started growing and growing and growing.
I mean, the big stressor was the city because they started to pour on fines, and at that time, Dan Saltzman was in charge of the Bureau of Development Services, and that was the bureau in charge of zoning. And so, we were like, okay, the first month, $641 worth of fines. Again, remember, like, now we're getting donations because people in the wider community think it's fabulous what we're doing.
When I was going to one of the meetings that was led, chaired by Commissioner Amanda Fritz, sidewalk management meeting, and we had good dialogue back and forth, and she grabbed me and said, you know what, you're a homeless guy, but you seem pretty smart. And I said, homeless people are not stupid. They just fell down on their bad luck. So I had an open door policy with her where I go in and we can sit down. I would teach her all about homelessness, houselessness, and she noticed that the way I talked to her, I talked to everybody else. I didn't treat nobody no different, and she liked that quality that I treated everybody evenly and with respect. So she became our champion. She lobbied for us to get a spot under the Broadway Bridge, right on the outskirts of Old Town Chinatown and the Pearl District.
Finally, after a couple of years, they found a new location for them under the Broadway Bridge. And of course, the Pearl District became unglued. That could not happen, not in my backyard.
The Pearl District wanted that spot because they wanted to build a motel there, and they didn't want their fancy customers to see a homeless people. So in that time, they was trying to get rid of us. The city wasn't suing. When we made an agreement with Michael Wright and Dan Cassette, we said we'd never cost them no money. So when the city was suing them to put us out, we took over that lawsuit, and they started charging us $600 a month, and then it would double, and then it would double, and it stopped at that triple double, so it became like $2,400 a month, something like that. And so we sued the city. We kind of sued the city because they were suing us for something we wasn't. And then we said, we're not that, so how you gonna sue us for something what we're not? We sued the city, and the Pearl District wanted that land. So the city and us and the Pearl District negotiate that we wouldn't sue the city, we'll get a settlement. The Pearl District give up $1 million. $859,000 went to us to find new land, and the rest of it went to the city so they can get that back pay money. That's what it was that they were suing us for. So that's how it became that we won our lawsuit settlement with the city on the agreement that we would get that money and they would help us find new land, and we wouldn't leave that spot until they help us find land and that we can buy and we can develop to make it even more modern than what we have now.
There's a lot of stories, and some of it is just, seeing people like Mama Chewy and Chris this past week at Pitch a Tent, and just seeing how healthy and vibrant and how people's lives have taken off and that they're doing so well. And that's a lot of the people from Right to Dream too that come back and visit or come and support. They just needed a little something, a little stability, being a part of a community to get where they needed to go. When we started Right to Dream 2, Dignity Village was the only other place where couples and their pets were allowed. And so when you're talking about family, a lot of times it's that person you're coupled with, it's that little dog that, has accompanied you, and maybe it's the reason that you don't have PTSD is because you have your four-legged friend with you, It's just so important that people are able, as they're going through a difficult time of not having housing, of, being all the hard things that they face on the street, that they are able to be, cuddle up to their sweetie at night or, be with their little dog or their little cat. There's people who are brand new to the streets, and they pretty quickly develop this feeling like we have people at meetings all the time say, thank you, you are my family. So they have this feeling of community and support from other people.
I have not been disappointed by the job that they did, the way they administered it, the people that they helped, and the effort they put in to keeping the neighborhood, making the neighborhood better than it was when they got it. And they did do that. I did it primarily to stick my thumb in the eye of the city for what they've done to me. And I ended up having some pretty good feelings about what came out of it. One of the bright points was people could stay together. There's not very many shelters that will take everybody in and just say, you're a unit. They did a good job. They helped a lot of people.
For us at Right to Dream too, we normally, since we're a drug and alcohol-free rest area, we'll ask people to go get treatment. And so it's not easy to get into treatment. That's one thing that people, should know, that there's a lack of resources, but sometimes EB has been able to get people into treatment quicker than they'd be able to, or sometimes people have gone to Hooper Detox. And I mean, that's one of the inspiring things when I think of that. If I can think of 2 individuals just off the top of my head who have been clean and sober, and they look incredible. They're both working. One of them is working at the rehab center where she went through. And so watching them go from people who were living outside and totally addicted to people who are enjoying their lives, they're healthy, and they're helping other people is really a great thing, and that just keeps multiplying. Every time I think one of us who is not living down there but supports as a board member supporter who lives indoors, every time we get frustrated because there's so many things going on, all you have to do is go down there and you'll hear another story. Somebody will come up and tell you what the update is in their life, and you go, okay, this is worth it. I cannot stop doing this because it makes a difference in people's lives every day. Over 300 people have found housing and jobs, and that there's been, over 12 people who are able to keep their children, which is no small feat when you are dealing with houselessness, getting inside so you can have a safe place to have your baby, and not having social services get involved because of your housing status is really hard. There's a lot of hunger out there. We have people coming by for food and clothing all the time. People get their clothing stolen all the time on the streets, so it's not uncommon for someone to say, my backpack was ripped off when I was sleeping last night, not in Right to Dream 2, but outside on the streets, and then we'll go find them clothes in our clothing room. So very simple, basic things that people can provide to others with dignity because they know what it's like. And so it's not like there's a little less stigma going on when you come to ask another houseless person for something to eat or some clothes to put on, because they're in the same situation. They've been there too. I think there's a few things that people could do to help. One of the immediate needs, it's always money. We haven't touched that money. The city's never given us access to the money that the Pearl Group put in. And like I said, they're planning on sinking it all into this infrastructure. And so there has been a power imbalance in us being able to access that and spend it the way we want to do it. And we continue to operate and pay our dumpster, our porta potty, our laundry, all of those things with the donations of people who come through. And we sell some stuff, so you can always buy a t-shirt or get a sticker, don't have to just donate. You could get something in return. And then people bringing their skills in whatever way they can. We see around us a real issue with heroin on the streets, meth, things like that. So people who have some kind of experience with supporting people, helping people get access to services for drug addiction, and I'm talking about not just inside, if people come inside to Right to Dream 2, but people surrounding wherever we're at, anywhere in the city. We need more support. We need more support with people who have access to mental health resources. Again, not easy for people to get that support, and just general health support. So if people are able to come in and lend support for those kind of things in a non-judgmental way, they're totally welcome to come and volunteer with us. Or if they do social media and they want to help, pretty much we could plug in people's talents in whatever way they have to offer. Our greatest need really is for people in community to come and show up and say, you know, I have these skills, or I have this monetary, whatever they have. What can you offer? We can plug it in.
What people can do to help, they can join us in solidarity. They can help us, you know, if you have vacant land that you're not utilizing, you can contact Right to Survive, where we can come negotiate with you and see how we can utilize it to help more houseless communities or whatever. If you have work, you can contact us. People need work. If you have life skills where you want to share and educate people to retrain, I mean, we recycle cans, we recycle wood, glass. Why not recycle the mind and help people get back into productivity? We need electrical appliances such as microwave, toaster ovens, hot plates, skillets, sleeping bags, socks is a must, personal hygiene, mainly women, and clothes that you don't need. And money, of course.
I think one of the greatest challenges was both the economic resources to make sure that we could keep going, and we're still going. Again, we were really supported by the community and then by social justice grants. We've not gotten a penny from the city yet, you know, up to this date, 2016. We don't have any money from the city, which might be a misconception.
Thank you for looking at our show, and we hope you continue to watch our show as you see how the houseless people are bringing awareness to what's happening on the streets, the invisible harassment, the invisible torture. You can go to our site at R2S TV@gmail.com or go to our site righttosurvive.org.